43 acres on South James River Road in the James River Ministerial District. The Planning Commission held their public hearing May 29th, 2018. They heard 2 comments during that time against the project. The Planning Commission is recommending approval with conditions that you've been provided. The applicant is here if you have questions for him, as well as we do have people signed up for the public hearing.
Anything y'all want to say before the public hearing? All right. We'll open the public hearing.
Richard Walker, District 5.
Culture, our land in Buckingham. I have family members that still reside on Union Hill Road that are sickly now. And those fumes from that pipeline, they automatically said, we might as well write our obituaries right now. You know, I abhor, because it's 85% African Americans in that district. Okay, and I feel like they're being taken advantage of, that my family members are being taken advantage of. And in Buckingham, the county administration of Buckingham has something to do with sealing a deal for that pipeline. I detest it. You haven't done your homework. There's a lot yet to be discovered that is yet to be answered on the water quality. We have wetlands on our property. We have unmarked graves on our property. And all of that, trust me, with God as my will, I will do whatever is in my power to stop it. To stop it. And if you're an African American and you support this Atlantic Coast Pipeline, I detest you. Because it shouldn't be a part of our culture in this land of Buckingham. I had the opportunity to go to Yogalville. I've never been there. Awesome view of the entire county. But then to have this pipeline, we were already a product of the Transco pipeline when I was 8-10 years old. And here we go with another fracking in Buckingham. This is God's country, and you'll turn it into, you know, man's country for profit. For profit. That's all this is about, is a profit. Do any of you reside in District 5? I'm sure you don't. Would you allow for that pipeline and that compressor station to be around your neighborhood? I know I'm not going to get an answer. That's a rhetorical question, I'm sure. But why put it across the yards and the land and the property of minority African American folk that have lived on this land? They have lived off this land. When it was Nick's Market, they'd go there once a month to get groceries. But they lived off the land, and this pipeline will destroy what they have. We have natural springs on our property. We have 52 acres of property out there. I have a big problem with that. They're looking for an easement on our land. We have not allowed a survey to come on there. We're in Superior Court right now. And trust me, with every last breath in my body, I will fight it to the end. Pride Harper family, located in District 5, and unfortunately, Mr. Bryan is not here. I'm thinking this is premature, because there's still regulations, there's still studies, there's still information that's being provided that goes against this entire pipeline process. You know, so I think by granting them this zoning would be premature, because we haven't come to a final conclusion that the ACC has gotten permission to go ahead and start cutting down trees and taking people's property and doing what they want to do. You know, I say this publicly. If you're African American and you are for this, I detest your motives. If you are individuals that are for this, you are not looking at the aspect of how it's affecting the environment and affecting the folk that live in that district. You know, I would love it if it were in one of your districts. I really would, as opposed to the district where my family resides. See what your reaction, what your response would be to that, what your constituents would see to that, if that pipeline, if that compressor station were running through either one of your districts. You know, this man camp, and it sounds like a misogynistic title for one, you know, that you're allowing folk to just build campsites on this land, on this property in regards to this Atlantic Coast Pipeline. It has not gone through final approvals yet. It has not, and this is premature. For you to grant this and just let me know that you're selling out them folk in District 5. That's just what it's saying, that you are selling out the primarily African American constituents in District 5 by allowing this zoning special use permit for this man camp. Please, gentlemen, have a conscience. Please look at the historical factor. My family has probably got one of the oldest land properties in that district. The late 1800s, we've owned that property. And this pipeline is a travesty to the folk that are still residing there. Please have a conscience.
Gentlemen, good to see you. Happy summer. Hope you're doing well. I'm Jiva Abate, representing Yogaville, District 5. Kelly's not here, but I thank him for participating with us in a number of activities. And I thank you all for including us in the tourism promotion video, showing all the different things we offer in Buckingham County. I understand the need for housing for any work that's going to be done on the proposed ACP and compressor station. And I understand why Mr. White and others who have this property would want to make some profit on this before that property is devalued as soon as the compressor station is under construction and built. But I have concerns over the construction workers, what I call construction workers temporary housing camp, being located at Union Hill. All the services they might need, like restaurants and service stations, entertainment, are not at Union Hill. How many numbers are going to be there? Is this camp, it's unclear by the petition that there's going to be 20, 40, 60, 100, or 200 workers. How many people will they put in the RV? I can remember going to some type of concert with some friends. I think we had about 10 people in an RV that time. It was real temporary, it was just 2 days. But I have a concern over the amount of people coming into Buckingham County and particularly to Union Hill. Those services maybe are better utilized by a camp near Dillon, where there is sewage already in place, where there's restaurants in place, and so on. So why Union Hill? Why would such a camp be placed in a residential church community like Union Hill? What is the oversight and the regulation of alcohol, drugs, or weapons that may be brought to that camp? Is there going to be a supervisor? Is there going to be security? Traffic, for those of us at Yogaville, is a concern. Additional cars and trucks going in and out of the camp on 56, that can be a problem. We've already had one accident at the crossroads of 56 in Union Hill some 3 weeks ago, and that was just normal residents. That's a tricky, difficult area, and it could be some safety problems. So the impact of 50 to 100 construction workers in this area requires additional policing and security.
I'm Kenda Hanuman from District 5. Sorry that our representative is not here tonight. I hope he's not ill. I'd like to thank everybody for attending this hearing tonight on the application for the special use permit for a private campground filed on April the 6th, 2018 by Craig White, manager and owner of CWRB LLC, mailing address 8812 Jericho City Drive, Maryland. Yeah. Is it legal, ethical, or moral to proceed with this hearing containing apparent application violations tonight? The documents I received from the zoning administrator, Rebecca Cobb, state under signage on property, The applicant shall be responsible for keeping the sign free from grass, weeds, and any other plants or vines that may obstruct the public's view. The only apparent sign is obstructed from view, as I notified Ms. Cobb by email on July the 3rd. I photographed most recently the sign on Sunday, yesterday, July 8th. It is obstructed from view. That appears to me to be a violation of the required signage. Adjacent landowners on lot 91-58 are listed as unknown, and no notice of a hearing appears to have been attempted by the Buckingham County Planning Commission to notify that adjacent lot to the Ricky Burnley and Charles White property. Is this a Virginia LLC that Mr. White and Burnley have, as stated in the unanimous consent of members of CWRB Associates LLC and signed by Craig White and Ricky Burnley Jr.? It's registered in Maryland. Is the required, quote, foreign qualification, unquote, filed to make it a Virginia LLC? I ask that you deny this application due to any violations thus far. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chad Oba. I am District 6, Mr. Chambers' district. I've stood here before you on numerous occasions in the past 4 years in hopes that you would carefully consider what myself and many of my neighbors and experts have presented to you. We have asked you to carefully consider the ACP impacts on our beautiful rural environment, and more specifically, the compressor station of the residents of Union Hill, where my husband and I reside. It doesn't seem as though it's made much of a difference, and I'm really very sad for that. I trusted that you would have our interests and protection firm in hand, and that you would represent us who are being sacrificed for whatever reason you feel is advantageous to the county. I feel as though Dominion got to you with their many promises and financial donations throughout the county before we even had a chance to speak about this or to know about their plans. Now, once again, we're being asked to bear in the Union Hill neighborhood this invasive project on our neighborhood. I feel as though it is more than likely being pushed and accommodated by Dominion, and for those who have applied to do this project, it will not bear the return they are hoping for. It is likely there is some other incentive that the public is really not aware of. This is all business behind closed doors, sprinkled with donations, promises, and revenue that we will bear the considerable burden of. I ask you, why is it okay for our neighborhood and not for others that were considered? I do not understand that the cost of having to draw the water from the town of Dillwyn, I do understand, turned out to be too high. Someone told me this, and that's why it wasn't located there. There were too many costs involved for the developers. But I wonder how on earth, and I say this to the people who are developing this or want to do this, would they expect to sell home sites across from a compressor station after this campground? People do not buy real estate across from deadly polluting infrastructures. You gotta be crazy. This application acts as if this camp would be the only change. Impacts are additional to the other pipeline construction noise, traffic disruption, solid waste. The public is being kept in the dark about total infrastructure impacts because each project or piece of the ACP is segregated into discrete sections, so impacts seem smaller than they would if examined cumulatively. I sincerely hope for the best for the gentlemen who are proposing this. They're my neighbors. We are all trying to survive this invasion that is threatening our lives, and in this case, the livelihoods of the people presenting it. But this is not the answer. I ask you to reject this special use permit to build a temporary RV campground along Route 56 in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Presentation, you mentioned several times, financial.
Right, yes. Well, I think that
Virginia Power for ACP? What?
Dominion has made many donations to the county to many different organizations.
What? Tell me what they are. I don't know of any of them.
Okay, well, I'd have to research that right now. I hear about them all the time. They're public, they're in the newspaper.
You hear about them, and that's spreading, I don't want to say spreading poison, because it may not be, it may be so. But if you can't back it up, you know, if you can't
I will
say that-
back it up if you would like.
You know, because I'm not aware of any, you know, any more than they've
The
always done.
schools.
Call your ignorance.
that-
We don't need your comments from the crowd.
I think that if you would like, I will document it.
I would like
Yeah,
to know.
sure.
I would like to know what they have done above what Virginia Power, Dominion Power normally does. Then, for this, because I don't know of any money that's changed hands between Dominion and the county on this, other than permit fees and investigative reimbursements for the hydrology studies and such as that. I'm not aware of any donations they've made in any respect. Is anybody else up here aware of that? So
They have made
I'm
some-
just concerned about
They
that
have-
assertion.
They have made some small donations to like Alice Acres or the school, that's not through you all though.
No, but they,
No, and I
but they,
didn't
but
say
they,
it was
but they've
to
always
you all.
historically done those community service donations. They've done those years prior before the pipeline issue even came up. I'm not trying to defend them. I'm just trying to keep from a false assertion on unfounded
Sure.
assertion
Right.
Sure.
turning into a fact, an assumed fact, which I don't
That was
believe
not my
it is.
intention. It was only to say that they make donations within the county.
Well,
And,
they-
you know, that makes people think that they're good guys.
And they have been all along. They didn't just start making those few donations that they made since the pipeline. You know, they've been doing community service donations all along as part of their,
And I wonder how long
Yeah,
this
program.
pipeline has been on the books and how much planning they did to make this happen here.
it precedes my tenure on the board.
Yeah, well,
So, but I just wanted to.
sure,
comment on
no, I understand. And I can find places and give that to you if you'd
that.
like.
Please report back to us.
Okay.
I got my curiosity up.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
I've got a question for you. Have you contacted the LLC or the people that own the property? Have you spoken with those people that own the property that is in question?
Not about this. I have had contact with the Burnley family because we've actually put an air monitor in their home because we're concerned about the health of them and their children because they're directly across from the compressor station, and we are doing baseline water testing there also. But it did not have anything to do with the LLC company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But they're members of that LLC company.
Yes, I know. I know. I think it's a mistake, but, you know, it's what they want to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen Flowers, District 3. No one should profit from the pipeline. The county, the millionaires that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, or the property owners who are requesting this zoning change. The pipeline is a product of greed. The money for the pipeline should be going into renewable resources. This property could be used for a renewable energy product. At the Planning Commission meeting, I heard Mr. White say somebody's going to make the money, why shouldn't it be me? He also stated that he was going to sell the property after the people leave, and who in their right mind would want to buy or build a house across the street from the compressor station? If there's anybody here that wants to sue me, go right ahead and do it if they don't like what I have to say. My principles mean a lot more than any money that I might have, and thank you.
I understand the desire to make money from property that you own, and particularly in a situation where it looks like it's not going to bring in money down the road. But I'm very concerned about putting as many people as it appears to me that would be put into the area. in the middle of rural Buckingham. As I've talked with people from all over the country who've been dealing with this infrastructure for a number of years, I've become very concerned about what happens in the communities where these campgrounds appear. And what I've chosen to do is, instead of just me telling you what I found, I brought you some copies of some of what I found that includes the references and the web links, so that you could go and check this all out for yourself. But what has happened, it shows happens, is that there's more crime, there's more sexual violence, there are children, male and female, who get abused, people have disappeared, and I'm just really concerned about what could happen. 27 RVs, but we don't know how many people. And we don't know what those people are going to do other than sleep and watch TV. There's no entertainment out there. As somebody else already said, no stores out there. This is will be much greater density of people than is typical in Buckingham, and I can imagine it becoming a party spot. Security was addressed when you all looked at putting this in Dillwyn, but I don't see anything about security related in this particular proposal. And it will take, if something goes wrong, it's going to take longer for the sheriff to get there than it would take for somebody in Dillwyn to get there. So I just encourage you to look at some of the information that's out there. I encourage you to not vote on this. Look some more and think about what can be done to protect the community, because we don't need to bring problems into our community that we don't currently have. We've got enough already. And these tend to be places where problems occur. Thank you.
My name is Kathy Mosley. I'm from the 5th District. I just like to say to you guys that we was worried about the compressor station with the fumes. Now with the RV campsite, now we have to worry about our safety. And I live at 1296 Union Hill Road, and that's close by. And with these people coming in, we have no way of nobody checking out their background, to who they are or where they're from. And I think that's very important that we need to know. So if you decide to make your decision, I hope you greatly job consider our neighborhood. Thank you. And I live in District 6. Mr. Chambers is my representative. I recently heard about the proposal for a special campground not far from my home. I understand that this is to house the out-of-state workers who are coming in to work on the pipeline and the compressor station. I would never have heard about this if my neighbor had not told me. I don't think that most of the people who live in the area of this proposed campground are even aware of this plan. I would think that if they knew more about the real impact it would have on our neighborhood, they will be here tonight to object to it. I believe that once again, the real facts and impacts are being kept from the public and from those who will be most affected by this campground. I have attended other meetings regarding the pipeline and the compressor station, and I have read about the objections in other places for these housing units. They are not favorable. Why would it be any better to place it here in our neighborhood than it would be in these other places? We in the Union Hill neighborhood are already being asked to live with the proposed huge compressor station,
and all the intersecting pipeline endangering our safety and health and ruining our peaceful existence. I have objected to these as well as the microwave tower that will be towering over my home. I live very close to this site, as you may well remember from many other public comment. Now you are asking me to live with the additional traffic and very possible noise and trouble that others out of the area working will bring to our neighborhood. They do not have ties here and will have little neighborly regards to our welfare. They will be here and gone. Next, you will be asking me to put them up in what I thought was my home. My home has always felt safe to me, but now it is being severely threatened by all of this. Once again, it is the residents of the neighborhood that will be forced to live with the undesirable impact of all this campground and all the other infrastructure that they intend to build will bring to us. I object to approving this campground for a special permit. It does not belong here in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Good evening, Heidi there too, and of course this is my opinion. I don't know, it seems like that's kind of apparent and that we shouldn't have to say that. So I do question that. Do we really have to say that to prevent ourselves from being sued? Yes, District 5. So my opinion would be that you would do Mr. White and Mr. Burnley a favor to deny this SUP. They're trying to make good on a really bum deal for their neighborhood. And I understand that. I think they will fail to profit from the development due to the lack of desirability of locating next to a large, very noisy, toxic industrial site. My guess is that they really have not done the research to find out what this compressor station entails. 57,000 plus horsepower, which has been likened to the Titanic ×2. The noise of a jet engine. This is what the neighbors are all going to have to deal with if this compressor station is built, and we're not counting on that. For the immediate neighbors, this adds insult to injury for all the reasons that others have listed. I mean, they've already been dealing with this for 4 years. All the travails, everything that you've heard from us all these years. Again, as Jiva was going to say, you know, who would pay for the increased need for police surveillance? That's you and me. That's our taxes that would have to increase to have to pay for that. And maybe in closing, I'll just say briefly to spare you, you know, we all moved to the country because it's quiet and clean. And this does not look promising. It does not promise to be quiet and clean and law and orderly. Thanks for listening.
My name is Gerald Washington, and unlike some others, or quite a few others that's been here, I am not in opposition of an RV campground in the area. I'm a landowner. I own a home about a half mile from where this RV campground is proposed to be erected. You know, I had the opportunity when I live in the town of Dillon, and Mr. Chambers may remember when they were building the monastery, we had outside contractors building that, and they live right next door to me. I never saw those folks because they were at work almost all the time. In fact, in about 6 months when they were there, I only saw them probably 2 or 3 times. They left home before dark, they got back home after dark, and usually I found that when they were there, they were resting to go back to work the next day. And also, one of the things that concerns me a bit, I don't know how accurate this information is, but it was printed in the Farmville Herald recently that Farmville, or Prince Edward County, had approved, I think, one site of 150 units and another site of 30 units, a total of 180 units. Now, those folks will be living in Prince Edward County, coming to Buckingham to work, and taking that revenue right back to Prince Edward County. If they live here, they're going to spend some money here. We talk about support for the law enforcement and for those other amenities, other things that have to happen. Why not let that revenue help support that rather than taking that revenue out of the county? Again, the folks that submitted this, their permit, I know Ricky Burnley, he lives right next door to it. He has a family as well. I don't know that they would be requesting anything that's going to be, that would have a negative impact on their family and their neighborhood. He lives in that neighborhood as well as Craig White's family. So I know my opinion is not popular based on all the other comments here tonight, but that's how I feel as a resident of Buckingham and a property owner in the Union Hill area. And I may even myself request a permit if it may be one of those things that's needed. So I just thank you for your time.
My name is Georgie Incident. I'm a home and land owner in District 5. I teach in the governor's school and worked for years as an environmental scientist under contract with the EPA. If the pipeline and compressor station were to be tremendous job boosters to our economy, why would Dominion import so many workers from out of state that they get a zoning variance to oust them? Locating this man camp in Buckingham, especially Union Hill, would threaten our community in service to the greed of Dominion. Granting the request would be immoral. The overall culture and attitudes of pipeliners who inhabit man camps is reflected in their social media presence. A quick check of Facebook and Twitter reveals them to be grossly misogynist, exploitative, vulgar, arrogant, racist, and disrespectful of communities that they infest. They ridicule environmentalists and homeowners who are fighting for the right for their children and themselves to live with clean air and water. They then proceed to whine about not being appreciated. We do not want them here if these attitudes have manifested into nightmares in areas where these camps have established. Accounts of problems that characterize man camp life are readily available in the media. The camps are unsightly, dirty, noisy, and create traffic and health problems. The inhabitants are isolated from their families and not restricted by the sense of behavioral expectations that come with home life. Prostitution, human trafficking, domestic violence, sexually transmitted diseases, auto theft, disappearances, and assault, all of which dramatically increase with the arrival of man camps, generate some form of job opportunity, but hardly the type that Dominion wants you to expect from the pipeline. The most vulnerable members of our community, including minorities, the poor, women and children, are most susceptible to these documented threats. Sure, the pipeline workers will buy groceries and t-shirts from Food Lion and Walmart. What economic benefit is felt from these activities is trivial when compared to the true cost of their presence. The expense of overtime for our already strained emergency response personnel will come from our taxpayer dollars. The cost of predictive violence against our residents would devastate lives and be immeasurable. Tonight you may hear some speakers with Dominion scripted statements testify that they will be here just to do their jobs. Well, to accept these jobs, they must be comfortable with stealing property through a perverted application of eminent domain. If their morals were stronger than the temptations Dominion offers them, they would get other jobs. They are all complicit in Dominion's corruption of FERC, our elected officials, and the Department of Environmental Quality. If this zoning variance is granted, I will fear for the safety of my neighbors and family. It is your responsibility to protect the people of Buckingham by denying this request. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Swami Dayananda, Buckingham County, District Number 5. As a clergy and a friend of Union Hill community, I'm concerned about environmental justice issue for Union Hill. So this relates to my request for you to get more details, more information about this temporary housing camp from the applicants as well as from Dominion. Environmental justice says that no sector or population should disproportionately be burdened with pollution. Recently, Advisory Council for Environmental Justice found that there is enough facts that Union Hill faces environmental injustice and that there is a need for further study. Preservation Virginia has designated Union Hill as one of the most endangered African American community. And in Buckingham, we can stop that. On Variety Shades Plantation area in Buckingham, there is a grave sites of former slaves. And some are marked and some are unmarked. And there is a high possibility that there is another such sacred historical gravesite of former slaves and their descendants in the very land where the compressor station was purchased. So I would like to ask Dominion, and perhaps you can help. Would they let the descendants go onto the land to make sure that there is no gravesite of their former ancestors on the land that the pipeline is to go through and the compressor station built? I think the respect for our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, that's universal. Doesn't matter whether you're Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, whatever. We all respect that as sacred place. You would not allow your ancestors' grave to be ignored or be possibility of being digged without respect or without knowing. So I'm asking, would you please find out if the applicants are here today? How many people are expected? How many vehicles, trucks, equipment, how much traffic? And also, would they, as a descendants of African Americans, I believe they are, would they be interested to know about the grave sites on compressor station? Let's not make our precious Union Hill community the most endangered African American community. Let us stop that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Suzanne Keller. I'm a retired epidemiologist from the State Health Department, where I worked for nearly 30 years. In public health, we collect data, we gather information, we look at the science with the sole purpose of preventing harm to the people who live in our community. So I'm asking you to be public health workers as you think about the proposed man camp in your community. So I wanted to just bring to your attention some of the public health impacts from the proposed facility. First, there'll just be increase in traffic. Traffic accidents cause severe morbidity and mortality in our country and in our state. Increased traffic in this rural community will not only contribute to air pollution, but it's also going to create hazards due to traffic density that wasn't there before. And you have to think about these camps as essentially migrant labor camps for pipeline workers. And as you've already heard, they've been associated with heavy substance use, gambling, prostitution, violence, and other things that are not welcome in our community. If the proposed compressor station is actually built, there's going to be instantly an increase in particulate matter, which is associated with cardiovascular disease and exacerbating respiratory illness. It's also associated with low birth weight. And ironically, how we know some of this, it's a very recent study that came out last summer, where 3 oil burning facilities, electricity generating facilities in California were closed. Low birth weight went down in those communities after those facilities were closed. Particulate matters will be increased just from the diesel traffic and diesel trucks and equipment that's going to be used to build the thing. So there are things you can do. You can make rules. You can require that there's no idling of equipment. There are things that you can do to reduce the harm to the people in your community. And I think One thing I would suggest you do is get your local public health people involved. Ask them to do a health impact assessment of what this compressor station and even this man camp is going to bring to your community. And bring some real knowledge and science to bear on your decision. Thanks for listening.